The United States military possesses thousands of nuclear warheads and the world's largest navy, but its most frequently deployed weapon doesn't involve firing a single shot. It simply involves keeping you locked out of the bank. Inside the Treasury Department sits the Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC. Because the vast majority of international trade requires the US dollar, OFAC holds the unparalleled ability to dictate global commerce by controlling who has access to those dollars. For decades, countries targeted by these financial restrictions faced a stark choice: either quietly comply or figure out ways to evade them in the dark to avoid being completely blacklisted by global banks. Recently, China's Ministry of Commerce issued a directive that tears that historical playbook apart. Beijing explicitly ordered its domestic companies to completely ignore American sanctions when trading and processing Iranian oil. They didn't hide this instruction in a classified memo or a backroom deal. They broadcasted it to the media and the world through an official, highly public government document. Moving from quiet evasion to loud defiance strips away the fear that makes sanctions work. It is a direct challenge to the architecture of American global influence. The immediate flashpoint here involves Chinese entities buying and refining Iranian crude oil, a practice the U.S. heavily penalizes. Specifically, the targets are what the industry calls teapot refineries. These are independent, privately owned facilities clustered along China's eastern seaboard, operating completely outside the massive state-owned monopolies. To shut them down, Washington places these teapots on a sanctions list, blocking transactions using the US dollar. Normally, this triggers a panic. A European buyer sees the American red flag, fears secondary sanctions, and immediately cancels their order with the Chinese refinery. No troops or missiles are required. The strategy isolates the target company and lets the resulting financial panic drive them into bankruptcy. But China anticipated that exact chain reaction, and they are countering it by providing what they call a legal shield. The Chinese government has pledged to directly absorb the financial damage. If a teapot refinery loses a lucrative European contract because of U.S. sanctions, state-backed funds will step in to cover the deficit. The timing of this move aligns closely with Washington's current struggles to maintain order in the Middle East, particularly regarding its policies aimed at Iran. Beijing is watching the resistance the United States is facing in that region. They see an administration bogged down by complex conflicts, presenting a rare window of opportunity to test exactly how much authority America can actually enforce. By stepping in to cover these losses, China has moved past defensive posturing. They are actively capitalizing on perceived American vulnerability. If Beijing successfully neutralizes this sanction without domestic economic collapse, other nations are going to take notes. A blueprint for bypassing the U.S. financial system accelerates the broader international push for de-dollarization. Countries looking for an alternative to American economic oversight will realize the dollar's grip can actually be broken. The longest and most imposing shadow cast by this policy, however, points directly toward the future of Taiwan. Historically, the threat of complete economic devastation has served as Washington's primary non-military deterrent against a Chinese invasion. Analysts are watching the teapot refineries closely because this legal shield functions as a real-time stress test. It allows Beijing to build economic immunity and refine its defenses before making any kinetic moves across the strait. This places Washington in a difficult bind. With Donald Trump scheduled for an upcoming visit to China, the stage is set for a direct, face-to-face confrontation over this exact directive. The United States now has to navigate a geopolitical reality where its most feared tool of coercion is being openly and legally dismissed by its largest competitor.